So, good morning again, Narad.
Good morning.
And we're extremely happy to continue with our explorations. The contact with our gurus, the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, have been physical and experiential as well. And I imagine after hearing your dream experiences of Sri Aurobindo, I'm sure you have other dream experiences as well
Yes.
of the Mother, maybe to tell us about.
Okay. Some I have to read because they're so. I can't remember everything. But this is. I'll start with the most difficult dream of the Madonna of Suffering and Sorrow. I met her. You know, it's in Savitri that Savitri meets them. It was a dream of November 20th, 2003. Hitler and the Madonna of Sorrow. I'm in a room with Hitler and his lieutenants, and he's exhorting them to sing and encouraging me to sing. Either because I could not or would not, I found myself sitting in a room with Frederick. I was with Frederick. He has a very concerned look on his face. He had and said, "It is too quiet." Just after he said this, first, a long line of men, tall and dressed in black, came into view. They walked with somber steps, and they were holding on their right side, shoulder high, small caskets with their children, whom Hitler had butchered. As the last man passed, there was a woman behind him. She was wearing a gray cloak that reached almost to the floor, and she had her head on this last man's back, near his shoulder blade. It was a poignant and painful moment, harrowing in its silence and brutality. I recognized her as the Madonna of Suffering and Sorrow, and the dream ended. This is an experience that was told to me by someone who I have been very close to. This person writes, "I saw a golden gate surrounded by a golden light. A very big golden lock was holding the gate closed. I saw a hammer smash the lock and was puzzled at how the lock was smashed. Then someone called here and said, 'Mother has left her body.'"
Where were you when Mother left her body?
Here.
In Oroville?
Yeah, but here every day. Actually, we were in Bangalore collecting plants for the Matrimondia Gardens, and at 5 a.m. a newspaper was put under the door, and it was a full page. "Mother has left her body." We took a taxi and came immediately. We were here about 7 or 8 in the morning, and about 8 in the morning, I guess, and we stayed all day. And I did not have the beautiful experience that Satprem mentions. I was in tears, and many were in tears, because we saw Mother there, and she couldn't even lie down, Body was almost vertical because of her back. And they had these hot lights shining down on her in that meditation room. Since then, everything changed at that point, and I watched as they put her You know the story of Udar building this samadhi, and Mother saying, put a place for me on top,
Yeah.
and his refusing to do it, and then she said, and he did it. Well, I watched as they carried her body and put her there, and again there was sorrow. It's all gone now because she's with me. And okay, now this is a dream of Mary Helen that is so powerful. She writes, trying to reach a destination as yet unknown, sometimes with Narad, sometimes alone. Hostile beings trying to destroy us, which we either fought and beat down or ran away from. Finally came to a gathering of others who had undergone the same kinds of battles to reach this place. There was a building, not Matrimandir, just an ordinary-looking Western-style, long, rectangular building with a peaked roof. It appeared new, for the structure was complete, but it had no exterior finish. As everyone gathered together, we realized Mother was there. Not above or apart, but among us, as one of us. She asked us to come into the building, and when we were all inside, she told us she wanted us to finish the building. She said, I will show you how to do it. And she took the edge of a piece of cloth and pulled it back, turning it over by folding it back upon itself, as one would do if reversing a large, heavy carpet. She said, I want you to cover the building in this way, with this cloth, for on the other side is the new consciousness. It is so close, and it is not so difficult. It is very simple if you enfold yourselves, as I have shown you with the cloth. And then this is another experience of Mary Helen, as she told me, September 30th, 1998, the experience before the second operation. She says, this time it was very nice. I saw a golden round light, but diffuse, and looked up to see if the lights in the operating room were on, but they weren't, only this light. Then a shape came under the light, white with some soft pastel colors, like the shape of a bird's wing taking flight, or like somebody's arms raised up. There wasn't any face. That held everything up. It was there through most of the operation, and then the image kind of faded from my mind's eye, but the feeling didn't go. Everything was just fine. So you see Mother's signature that I always remember. Now this is from Madhav Pandit, and I've written this because this is very interesting. I remember this experience vividly. In the early years of Oroville, Madhav would come out to the center in the place Mother named Peace. There we had a small workers' camp, you may remember,
Yes.
with coconut leaves for the roof, for keep. There was a kitchen, dining area, bedrooms, and a meditation room. Madhav would come each week on Wednesday, if I remember correctly, to give a talk on various aspects of the integral yoga. The meditation room was small and not too many attended his talks. One evening he said to us, and I remember this, if you have some questions, write them down and put them in a sealed envelope. When I come the next week, I will open the envelopes and answer your questions. So Mary Helen showed me her question and then sealed the envelope. When Madhav opened the envelope, he reacted with quiet and joyous surprise, and he said, This is a question from a realized soul. He answered the question, but I only remember the above. And he writes to Mary Helen, the dreams are happy and indicate the contact your being has had with Mother and Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo's figure is small because his supramental body is yet to rise to his full stature in manifestation. White envelope signifies a message, a secret that has been communicated to your being. Crystal here indicates the pure vision of the future. Then he speaks of Oroville. It is wise not to add to the discordant notes of the collectivity. Make your views felt. If they do not accept, leave it there. Concentrate upon your individual development, taking as much part in the general work as you can and no more. When you keep quiet in the interests of the general harmony, no betrayal is involved. The divine knows it, and that is enough. Then he talks that she can ask questions about Sanskrit names in Savitri. And he arranges for her to go to Sri Aurobindo's room. Now, this is my experience with Aurobindo Basu and Chinmayi. You may remember very well Chinmayi. She had cancer and she was in great pain. In fact, Alok talked about this last night, and he said, as he's in Desiree, he said, there are people with dementia and people in extreme pain, and he says, when I say, good morning, he said, there's this radiant smile. He said, none of them he experiences, is in his experience, none of them are grieving or sad or, unhappy with their situation. They're all in Mother. And so every one of them responds, even if just to that good morning. So it was only some years ago that Basu was still with us, and I told him that Chinmayi was near death from painful cancer. I used to go and visit her. The moment I walked in, I would begin singing Om, and she would sing with me. All the pain went, and she would just Om, just so beautifully. Her face was transformed from extreme pain to delight. I've never seen that before. One day, soon after my latest visit to her, I was visiting Aurobindo, and he told me, I told him that she was near death. She was very close. He said, I would like to go and see her. His auto rickshaw driver came, we went to her room. I began singing Om again, and she joined me with an intense peace in the room, which I felt he brought. As I stood near her bed, these words I spoke softly to her. I can't tell you that they came from me. They came from the Lord. I said to her, Mother says it is all right if you leave now. I then spoke, Om Sri Aurobindo Mira, Om Sri Aurobindo Mira, Om Sri Aurobindo Mira. Then Aurobindo went to her and spoke into her ear. As we left, he said to me, you did very well, but at the end you must say Brahman, and the soul will leave peacefully. I asked him when she would leave, and he said, not just yet. And after 5 hours she left. And I went to another person who was leaving, and I did the same thing now. This time I said Brahman, and they went. Something for us to remember. Huh? Yeah. Now, this is an interesting experience. It was in the early 60s, 1960s. I was living in New York, and I received a very strong inner message to go to a place where I would be totally alone, and for an entire week I was to only read Savitri. So I then received an inner directive to make a long journey up the East Coast. It was about 500 miles, 800 kilometers. And I arrived at a place called Minister's Island. It was near the Bay of Fundy, whose tides rise 30 feet each day. And so you could only get off the island twice in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And even the food I would eat seemed to be chosen for me. Cheese, crackers, and water. And the experience was so powerful that I felt Mother's presence constantly. And though I did not see Sri Aurobindo, I felt him guiding me, and I delved into Savitri, beginning with Book 1, Canto 1. And all during my stay, I never met another person on the island, except some lobster fishermen who invited me for a morning, and they sent a little boat out to pick me up and then return me. Very kind people. And I read Savitri during all the daylight hours in complete silence, immersed in its mantric force. And I completed the poem in a week, and then made the long trip back to New York City. I believe this was the Lord's gift to me, to open to Savitri in a way beyond the mind. For although I understood very little, except in certain books where everything seemed perfectly clear, I felt that Savitri would be my life's path. One day, I had an intuitive experience. It was more an experience of delight, and it said to me that I said, I'm going to hook a rug for Mother. And I learned to hook a rug. And I hooked it in her symbol with blue and white. So here's what happened. I had to study the technique of hooking and get all the materials, very fine wool and everything. And I sent a card to Mother. And maybe you could read.
Dear Mrs. Anne and Mr. Richard Eggenberger, this is to inform you that the Mother received yesterday the beautiful symbol carpet sent by you. The Mother started using it the very day of its receipt. The Mother is sending you both her special blessings. Please find the same enclosed herewith. Thanking you, yours in the Mother, Amrita.
And the last one. Last night I dreamed of Oroville and was shown the many changes that were taking place, things that would survive and others that would die off. I awoke once to write a few lines, then went back to sleep where the dream continued. Each time I awoke briefly and then went to sleep, I dreamed again of Oroville. There was no emotion involved. All was very quiet, and I was shown the changes almost as a moving picture, but in 3 dimensions. I remember especially the beauty of the land, The small groups of people gathered together, both Orvillians and villagers, discussing the momentous things that were happening. Music was also involved, but I couldn't recall anymore.
Which year was this?
2001. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And next time I have many more I can share. Be happy to share.